those of you who find the live, I tried posting this on Patreon like 6 times now. The post won't go through. I don't know why. Those of you on Patreon, it's been doing that with links lately, but I'm gonna try to get that fixed. For everybody else, once you're in here, just go ahead and say something. I don't think the gang will have a hard time finding the thing, but somebody says, "Oh my God, ndewo." Yeah, I couldn't tell you what's going. I had a hard time posting this on Patreon, guys. I'm in the middle of packing and moving. I don't even know where I'm gonna put this. I'll put this in a place where it makes sense. I'm in the middle of packing and moving. I was destined to see this now. Oh, welcome. Welcome. Drop by RQ. What's up? Well, all right, you guys. Looks like you guys are finding it. You guys, I tried to post this on Patreon. It did not let me post, so I'm worried that our people won't find it. But we'll see. I need a place to put this while I unpack. Well, I'm in the middle of unpacking. I'm gonna see if I can do the two at the same time. Drop by RQ. What's good? Okay, good. J Money. All right. Okay, cool. Chubike. Dalo one there. Dalo kekide. Kekide one there. All right. Let's go. Once we get, let's do 10. Once we get 10 people in here, I'll go ahead and begin. Like I said, I'm in the middle of packing, so I hope this is going to work out. I'm not going to be as attentive as I normally am. I'm going to rant longer than normal. All right, where are we at? I'm able to chat with you about product I'm designing via email. I'm a young Igbo man. Yes, CJD, reach out on email. Send an email. I'm here to answer any questions and help in any capacity that I can. So go ahead and send an email. But I hope you're not one of these people that, there's a lot of people that will reach out to me and say, oh, that they have this idea and they want me to do it. Because do your idea. I hope that's not going to be one of those emails. I get them a lot. So hold on. Do your idea. The abia, the wisdom came to you, not me. But anything I can contribute, I will contribute. So go ahead and send me a message. Once we get 10 people in here, we'll go ahead and start. All right. Cricket in here. I have to get my small toolbox. We are in the middle of unpacking. Once we get 10 people in here, we will go. Patreon did not allow me to post this, so I don't know if we're going to be able to find this today. It's a passion project. I'm burning my money for this, so okay, no problem. Just send me a message. I answer questions for free, so whatever you need, I got you. Whatever you need, I got you. Do. All right, we've hit 10 people. He said, I had my bell here. He said, all right, let's go ahead and go. All right. Okikekeroa. Alabwala. Ala nne mmadụ na nne mmụọ. Nne na-enye ndụ na-enye nke ọma dị n'ụwa. Ọnwa anyị na-ekwu. Aha m bụ Duru Derek Ọfọdụ nwa. Si aja na awọ mama abịa. Si mmiri njaba abịa. Jikwere obiọma na aka ọcha na-ekele gị. Jikwere ọfọ na ogwu aga. Jikwere udo na ndụ aga. Jikwere akọ na uche aga. Jikwere akụ na ụba aga. Akụ na ụba na mmadụ, akụ na ụba na mmụọ. Nke dị n'nta, nke dị n'imo. Ana m ekele unu. Taanị okwu nke ga-enye anyị ndụ. Okwu nke ga-enye anyị ike. Okwu nke ga-enye anyị ije ọma n'ụwa. Maka na anyị na-aga ije Chineke kere ka anyị gaa n'ụwa. Ka ọbụla dị njọ, pụọ n'ụzọ. Ka ọbụla dị mma, anyị na-abịa. Otu a ka ọ ga-adị n'Eke, n'Orie, n'Afọ, na Nkwọ. Ise. Yeah. Get angry for the lulz. All right, what is it? Fat Ketal, get me angry. Say something infuriating. Get me angry. Get me angry. Say something infuriating. Hi from Indonesia. Hey, ndewo. Good to meet you. I've had family go visit Indonesia. Beautiful country. Awesome, hospitable people. So I'm super happy to have you in the live. Super happy to have you in the live. Ndewo. I am looking for my Allen wrench. All right, y'all. So the way this works is this is Ask Me Anything. You ask me questions. I answer. Once the questions finish, I'm finished. So if you want to keep it going, keep the questions going. If not, then so be it. Um, YouTube allows you to do a little donation thing, so that's cool too. You don't necessarily have to, but if you just want to, I don't know, be cool, then do that. Otherwise, I answer your question no matter what. I may skip it sometimes because maybe I didn't see it. So if I skipped it, ask it again. Where are we at? Where are we at? Okay, I think this is the right one. Let me see if we have any questions. We are question free. So my name is Duru Derek Ofodarengwa. I discuss Odinala Ndibo, which is Igbo spirituality, cosmology, philosophy, ancestral thought, the thought forms of our thought systems of our ancestors. People in the past have asked me about how our ancestors conceptualize time, how to connect to different forces that our ancestors understand, what these different forces are, what our ancestral understand, different things about history. So whatever it is pertaining to ancestral knowledge, I'm here. I'm tugging one out for you. It's funny that you're tugging one out and you have enough free hands to type that. So it's funny you're doing that, but you got enough free fingers to type, which tells me you're probably doing something like this, talking about, I'm tugging one out for you. Da, 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 da. You know what I mean? Yeah, don't tell on yourself, warrior. Your hands should not be free. You understand? Your hands should not be free. You're not dedicated to your craft. That's your problem. That's why nobody respects you. Well, yeah. Talking about I'm tugging one out. Is chi just an ancestor or more than one? So your chi is not your ancestor. Your chi is not your ancestor. So there is a people confuse. I'm gonna put this up here. All right, so people confuse the chi. Let's see if I turn the light on, it'll look better. All right, that's better. All right, so people confuse the chi for the concept of chi-owa. Chi-owa. Because they just use the same word, chi. And so your chi-owa is the person you were in your previous life. This person it may or may not be an ancestor, okay? Your ancestor is somebody you descend from specifically and directly. Your ancestor is somebody you descend from specifically and directly. So you may or may not be a reincarnate of one of your ancestors. And whoever you are a reincarnate of is your chi-owa, right? But your chi-owa is not the same thing as your chi. Your chi-owa is not the same thing as your chi. Was that J Money? J Money, I don't know if you've heard of Celeste Nuku. Celeste Nuku has this song called Ilo Aburi Chi. Ilo Aburu Chi, right? Which is the person you were in your previous life is not your chi, because this confusion seems to be something that's been going on for generations. So the phrase Chiowa refers to the person you were in your past life, the person you reincarnated as. If it's like a grandparent or a parent, or a great grandparent, then yes, your Chiowa is one of your ancestors. Sometimes it's like a grand uncle. Like for me, it's a grand uncle. And a grand uncle is not one of my ancestors because I don't descend from my uncles. I descend from my parents, right? So, there we go. So, what was I saying? But what your chi specifically is, right, is that all of creation is made up of a formula. This formula is chi na eke, chineke, right? Chineke. You understand? This formula creates all things. So, meaning that all things have a chi and all things have eke. Eke is a form, an existence, right? The word eke literally means creation. So all things everything is a creation, right? That's a fact. Everything is a creation. And every creation has this thing called a chi. What is a chi? A chi is the source by which the thing came from, right? It is the unmanifest, unseen force that the thing came from, right? So in religious people will say their God is their chi. This is completely accurate. That's what it is. I'm saying that this is the thing I come from. This is my source, right? You understand? This is the thing I come from. Not only the thing I come from, but the thing that guides me and the thing that will take me out, right? The thing that guides me and the thing that will take me out. There's an ilu that says, where a man falls, it's their chi who pushed them down, okay? So the thing that is in control of you, the unseen thing that is in control of you is your chi. You understand? Now, your chi in the process of creating you will give you a chiowa, right? Which is your guide in the world, this force that guides you in the world. I don't use the phrase Chihuahua because I don't want to confuse people. I use the phrase Agun, Agun, Agun. You understand? I use the phrase Agun because I don't want to confuse people. It's the same. Ilo, Onyowa, Agun, and Chihuahua are all kind of the same thing, right? They're all kind of the same thing. We have this group, we have a group study on Patreon, patreon.com/the medicine show. And we were just discussing this concept of the soul, or it came up in the last discussion. The actual discussion we had was about, oh God, it was just yesterday. Let me remember. The discussion was about, what was that discussion about? The discussion was about, anybody from Patreon, any village members, let me know. You're a descendant of Vikings. Probably not. Dude, your room is a disaster. How about cleaning that up? Well, pig vomit. I'm in the middle of packing. You understand, right? I'm in the middle of packing. If you weren't so busy being useless, you would have read the title, which says, ask me anything while I pack. I'm in the middle of packing. You see the boxes, right? But maybe to you, these are the conditions a person would live in, right? Maybe this is slightly untidy to you, right? To me, this is packing, okay? All right. So yeah, your chi is not your ancestor. Your chi is your creator. Your chi is your creator. But your creator gives you a thing known as your chiwa, which guides you in the world. You understand? It guides you in the world. Your chiwa is the part of you that comes into the world because you are like, imagine yourself as an entire universe, right? Imagine yourself as an entire universe. Your chiwa is one of the things floating around in that universe. That is you. And it is the part of you that is coming into the world for a reason and for a purpose. And because you have a reason and a purpose, you manifest in the world in a very specific way. If you're tall for a reason. If you're short for a reason. If you have a deep voice, you have a deep voice for a reason. If you get angry a lot, you get angry a lot for a reason. Everything that it takes to make you is what you are supposed to be. And it is your chihuahua that is giving you these traits which are associated with your purpose. So your past life you and you guys share the same agun. Okay, I hope this is making sense. You share the same agun. So that agun comes in the world in one form, does what it's going to do. When that person passes away, it comes back, which is where it gets the name Ilo, which is the returning. Earlier I said Ilo Abugichi. Okay, so once the agun returns into a new person, let's say it's you, right? You're going to see parallels between you and your past life self because you guys are 2 pages in the same purpose. 2 pages in the same purpose. So for example, recently in Ghana, right? And I know I teach Igbo spirituality, but all of this can apply for most of coastal West Africa. Recently in the Akan Kingdom, or in the Ashanti Kingdom, my bad, they had the burial of the Queen Mother, right? Which is, I believe, their traditional ruler's mother. And there were a bunch of people that came to greet her and display and do all that thing. And a lot of them, like there was one who was like the youngest, I don't remember what the title was, but he was the youngest something in the whole whatever. He was a little kid. He was covered in powder. He was doing his thing, really representing. Now, this kid, the reason they knew he had this attribute of whatever he was supposed to be was because in his past life, that's what he used to do, okay? So your past life self, whatever it is that they are doing, you are already that thing. Okay, so if your past life self is like a dibia, hold on, I think I'm about to bring out a battery. If your past life self is a dibia, then you are born a dibia. You're already automatically a dibia, right? You don't need to get a certificate or nothing. If your past life self was a warrior, you're already a warrior. If your past life self things, because it's all tied to the same purpose. It's all a continuation of the same thing. Now, at the same time, within Igbo culture, people will treat you with the whatever regard they had for your past life self. You'll also get that treatment. So you can randomly be in the village. And an old man will come up to you and say, "Oh, my wife. Hey, it's my wife." Or an old woman will say, "Hey, it's my husband," or "Hey, you're my brother," and that kind of thing, right? And whatever affection they had for you before they transfer it over to you now. Okay? Whatever regard they had for you before, they transfer it over to you now. Okay? Because it's the same person continuing and so forth, right? And that's one of my favorite aspects of the philosophy. So, Adema, where are we at? Our families. Are you familiar with the concept of ufo ndu? Chibike, are you referring to ofo ndu? Ofo, O-F-O, are you saying ufo ndu? Are you saying ufo ndu? So, ufondo, based on the description, if you're saying ufondo, ufo is like a tray, right? It's a tray that you use to deliver things. It's a tray that you use to carry things, right? Specifically, it is a tray that you use to offer up orji, cola nuts, right? And we can go into what that represents and that kind of thing. But the ufo itself symbolizes the human being, right? That tray symbolizes the human being, okay? And on a spiritual level and on a physical level. And the way our ancestors see it is like oftentimes you'll hear the phrase iyi owa, which is your stream, your universal stream, or your stream through the universe. The way we see it is that you are an amalgam, you're a combination of multiple forces and things and entities and all that stuff, right? And spirits and stuff. You have a whole bunch that come with you, ancestors, all of them. And they're all moving through the Iiwa, the universal river or the universal stream on the same boat, right? On the same boat. And that boat is you. That boat is you. So there are conversations that are happening in that boat. Each of those things may be coming, this one's coming for this reason, that one's coming for this reason. This creates the contradictions and so forth that make us who we are, right? But they're all moving through time and space on the same vessel. Vessel, there we go. Vessel is a better term for UFO. They're moving through time and space on the same vessel. So if you say ufondo, ufondo is probably referring to that boat. If you say ofo with an O, ofondo, that's a whole different thing. So I'm going to wait and see what your answer is before I say any more. Does Odinala culture have a fall harvest celebration? Yes, yes, it does. Absolutely. In fact, we're in it right now, right? So this is our New Yam celebration. Yesterday was the beginning of Onwa Ilo Mo, which is the moon of reincarnation. The moon of reincarnation. So usually this moon for some communities, or I think the next for other communities, we have the New Yam Festival, right? New Yam Festival is celebrated from, I think it goes into Cameroon, all the way to Cameroon to Gambia. Everybody celebrates New Yam Festival, every single person, right? But the yam was first cultivated in the lower Niger, which is Igbo land, where we're from. And if you understand our relationship with the yam and how important it is to us, it makes sense. So low-key one of our holidays, and everybody's in on it now. But yeah, there's actually a controversy. There's a controversy in Ghana. There's a controversy in Ghana related to Igbo people and New Yam Festival. So if anybody's familiar with that, then we can talk about that. Otherwise, I don't know if I want to get into all that. It's been comedy though, man. There's a lot of trolls and comedians out here. But yeah, so it's a New Yam Festival. The way New Yam Festival is celebrated is once harvest is done, everybody's grown and brought their things out. There's a section of town that kind of just turns into like an open buffet, right? Turns into an open buffet. And anytime you visit somebody's house, they cook for you. You just any house you walk into, you're gonna be fed. Everybody's gonna eat, right? Your stomach should be hurting by the end of New Yam Festival. Masquerades come out, different celebrations come out, but nobody eats until there's usually a certain family that'll eat first, or a certain elder that'll eat first, and that kind of thing. And so whoever the community designates as those people or that person, it could be the traditional ruler. It can be the oldest, not usually, always the oldest man in the clan, whatever it is. Once that person cuts and eats first, then everybody starts eating, and that kind of thing. It's a huge celebration. It's also giving thanks to Allah, the earth. So this is her moon and this is her day. Last moon and this moon are all her time. So we are in the season of harvest right now of Iriji, right? Some people call it Ahenjoku. So yeah. There's something on your face. Oh, that's your amazing smile. Oh shucks, thank you, Mohammed. What connections have you found to physics and Igbo? Damn, you just asked me one of those. Where's my bell? You just asked me one of those heavy questions, bro. Hold on, let me go get a box so I can start filling stuff up. You just asked me one of those heavy ass questions. What connections to physics have I found? Listen, when we say Odinala, right? I always say this. If you tell an 80-year-old man Odinala, that 80-year-old man may not know what you're talking about because this is a fairly modern term we use to describe all of ancestral thought, all of the thought of our ancestors, right? So in that big thought discipline pool, whatever you call it, tradition, there's a lot of physics. There's a lot of physics going on because what we're talking about is reality. Everything I'm describing, what I'm talking about is reality. It is affirmed by reality. You can't go to a book and say, well, in Leviticus 3:5-6, it doesn't say that, right? Reality, if I say something and it's not true, we don't believe, we let it go. You understand? There's no compulsion of belief. So this is our ancestral tradition. Tradition, I don't even know if tradition is the word. Ancestral thought, our ancestral thought, right? And within it, there's a lot of physics. So if you watch the first video I ever made, it describes a phenomena. It is how the universe and how Chinaeke, which is the couple, the mother and father that you can describe as God, right? The creator and creation, right? How they created the entire universe, and the creation was done in a big explosion or a big shattering of the universe, of the mother, right? The mother, and she bursts and it creates the universe, and it continues to spread and spread and spread. And as it's spreading, there is a spider known as Udide Okanka that is covering her in a burial shroud. Like this, a spiral burial shroud, that kind of thing, covering her in a spiral burial shroud, known as Ogodo Komosu, the cloth of Komosu, or the cloth of chaos, the cloth of creation. There's a lot of physics in it. People have, and as I teach, people bring up things like string theory. These are just things people hypothesize. People have brought up, and this to me, people have brought up string theory. People have brought up really interesting, or they're very, very interesting views on time and how time works. There is the view of the multi-dimensionality of Mo, which is spirit. There is specific descriptions of the dimensions, and those dimensions, go check out my video, The 7 Layers of Mo. And it talks about just the different dimensions that spirit exists in at the same time. Because more, right? Each person is physical, and then more so like an aura body or a light body, which is spirit, right? I just burped. But this aura body and this light body isn't just here. It is everywhere we have ever been, and it is also everywhere we are going to go. So it forms this string, right? It forms this string that connects us to all things and connects us to each other. And that string in itself has these certain properties that allow consciousness and light to exist, and light. Consciousness and life to exist, right? Direct connection to earth and direct connection to sun, a whole bunch of stuff like that. So there's a lot of physics going on in there. But the reason I said earlier that this is the ancestral thought is that, what was I going to say? The reason I said earlier that this is ancestral thought and not just like something somebody decided this is going to be our belief system is that it's from Odinala that we create our technologies and our sciences and things like that, right? So advancements in medicine, advancements in navigation, advancements in just all types of stuff. There's things that have been done, that are done in Africa scientifically that we now call juju, but there are things that are done in Africa scientifically that we in the West don't yet understand. I'll use an example. This isn't necessarily physics. Did you know that bees, the insect, bees know when a person is guilty or innocent? Did you know that? You're like, what? A bee knows if a person is guilty, or it's like a natural lie detector. And if it's activated, if a bee is activated in a certain way, the bees will actually swarm the face and the hands of the guilty person. And if you're in Igbo land, if all the way to like Uganda, the furthest I've seen it done is Uganda. They do this to figure out like if somebody stole something, okay, which one of you guys stole it? And they get all the suspects, and then the bees will then, okay, person, okay, fine, I did. That kind of thing, right? And so yeah, one day, somebody in Massachusetts will discover it, right? And then we'll allow ourselves to believe it exists. But if you don't need to wait for that person, just know that it's real. Bees are capable of detecting innocence and guilt, and innocence, that light body I was speaking about. You can tell a lot about a person if you're able to access and see what that thing is doing. So things like innocence and guilt and all that stuff. Yeah. I actually just saw a video by a girl who was saying that she has a form of autism, synesthesia, where she can see colors. And oh no, what am I doing this wrong? She has synesthesia. But then also when somebody is guilty of something, their color seems muted to her. Their color seems muted to her. And there are certain people where she'll hear them and then there's muted. And she's like, why is this person's color? When she was younger, but then she started realizing that it was people who have done something bad, right? She brought up Hitler. She brought up Ted Bundy. And then she said for some reason, she can't even see the colors on Clive Davis. It was just this video I saw like early. Clive Davis, a record executive who trained P. Diddy, right? That she can't see Clive Davis's color for some reason. She never knew why. So take that for what you want, but there's a lot more going on in the universe, and our ancestors describe all of these things with great detail and use it in their practice of Odinala. All right, where are we at? Science in general. Yeah, so everything I'm discussing is science. Everything I'm discussing is science, right? There's also a verifiability in Odinala. There's a concept of verifiability in Odinala, right? The Ilu says that if the ROC fails to do what the ROC was brought to do, we use it as firewood. So a lot of people, you see these figurines that are often made in African spiritual practices, and a lot of people will describe, oh, these are their gods. These are the gods. Da, 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 da. Those things are Arashi, right? They're Arashi. They're channeling devices. It's no different than, where's my Wi-Fi? Here's my Wi-Fi router. It's no different than this Wi-Fi router or the Ring, whatever. It's no different than this device here. This device, are you guys seeing this? This device exists to channel something that I'm using in my day-to-day life. But if that thing fails, all right, I think we're back. So if the thing fails to do what it's supposed to do, we use it as firewood. That is used to say that you do not hold belief in something that doesn't actually work. So what I am describing is science. No matter how out there it sounds, these are things that people use to operate in the actual world. And if it's not helping you to operate, let it go. Let it go. How do we find who we were? Okay, so typically, like as far as your onyowa, you're the person you were in the previous life. Typically, you go to, there are certain experts back home that will help you figure it out. You also do afa, which is divination. Afa, divination. Now, usually when I see afa done for reincarnation, it will tell you you come from a man or a woman on your mother's side that maybe died in this certain way or died at this certain time or did this certain thing while they're alive and that kind of thing. And then from there, you use your familial knowledge to say, oh, it's this person, right? So recently we figured out that my daughter reincarnated. Okay, so let me actually go to the beginning. So I told this story about how, okay, here's some science for you. I told this story about how my brother we lived in America. We were all born in America, and we moved back to Nigeria when we were very young. And so he fell from like a high chair and broke his leg. Right? You guys actually might know my brother. He's famous. And so he fell from a high chair and broke his leg. And so we went to the doctors in the U.S. They weren't able to do anything. We went back to Nigeria. We went to the doctors in Nigeria. They weren't able to do anything. It was already just confirmed that this child is not going to walk. This child's going to be maybe wheelchair bound. And my mom was not accepting any no for an answer. And so she just kept trying everything. She took this kid to church, and my grand uncle, Ditchim, who was, I don't want to say he's the last traditionalist in our family, but he was the last one who was like, like locked in, like you can make things happen, right? And so Ditchim goes, when you're done wasting your time, bring that child to me. So she left the church people alone and took my brother to Ditchim, and they buried him underground. They figured out in the past life that he was one of my well, we already knew this, but he was one of my uncles, my like uncles but cousin uncles, right? And he had passed away, and in the way he passed away, there was a woman in his family who could have saved him, and she didn't, right? And so they confronted her, and she's like, yes, this is all true. And part of the cure was that he was going to be buried underground for like a week. Or maybe, I don't know if it was like 5 days or what, but I knew there was multiple days he was outside, and we had to go outside and keep him company and things like that. But of course, being like 6 years old, I just, I don't think I don't think I contributed too much to that process. But they buried him, and his up to his like stomach, I believe. And there was a sacrifice given, and then she apologized, and she had to like cook him a meal and things like that. And they took him out of the ground, and he was able to walk, right? He started walking. This is true ass story. You can ask him, you can ask anybody, right? He started walking after that. And I thought it was my grand uncle who healed him, but it was actually my grand aunt, his wife, but she was blind. She used to read dreams, right? She was a dream reader. She can read dreams. She used to read dreams. And we figured out recently that she returned as my daughter, right? She returned as my daughter. So when the person returns, you now start asking yourself, okay, what kind of person was she, and this and this and that. Super highly spiritual gifted woman, right? Like I said, she'd read dreams for people in the family, everything like that. According to my mom, because she was very beautiful, she hated work. She like didn't hate, but she used it to get out of working. So so she was a bit, a little lazy, but very spiritually gifted, very beautiful woman. I just remember seeing her around. She was one of the last people in my family who didn't wear a top. She'd always her breasts were always out and things like that, and she had tattoos and that kind of thing. Very traditional. But one of the last ones that were like locked, her and her husband, or that were like that, So yeah. So where did this all come from? Oh yeah, reincarnation. So we figured out because we went to do Afa, right? So we go to a Dibia that's not from our town because we don't want them to have any biases. And that Dibia will tell us, it's this person that died at this time, or it's this person who's related to that person and that kind of thing. Then we use deductive reasoning and figure out who. It is controversial to say, but I believe that mothers tend to know. Mothers tend to know. And if you as a woman, let's say you're pregnant and you're not aware that you have this ability, you may consider it something else, right? So oftentimes people will visit pregnant women in dreams and tell them that, this is me, or I'm coming back. Certain names will appear in dreams, and I'll think, oh, maybe this is the name of the child. No, that's the person what it used to be, right? Or something, that kind of thing. But mothers can tell. Now, there are people who believe that no, mothers can't tell. Mothers can tell, I beg. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, even for me, I'm reincarnated officially from my grand uncle, who was my grandpa's friend. But my mom insists I'm her brother, right? So, in past life, do we use Dibia? Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Some people were Dibias in the past life. I don't have a lot of Dibias in my family, so I don't have any stories about who incarnated from Dibias and things like that. So, Derek, is there any relationship between Odinala and cybernetics? This question came my mind reading, Jermaine, I don't know too much about cybernetics. Is cybernetics from L. Ron Hubbard? Is that from L. Ron Hubbard, or am I thinking something else? I don't know too much about cybernetics or what it is, so maybe you'd have to educate me, and then I can let you know what I see. All right, I really meant ufondo. Please continue explanation on it as a vessel. Yes, so the ufondo. So everything I said earlier for the ufondo, it's you, right? The ufondo is you and all the things that make you that all the things that comprise you, right? The vessel that you guys are moving through the world as. Some people will use the phrase your ezumezu. Your ezumezu. I'm saying that wrong. Your ezumezu, right? Which is the full, total, and complete you. The four-headed you. The you with four heads, the 360-degree you, the entire and full you, right? Ezumezu. Some people will say ufondo, ufondo, right? I've never really heard the phrase ufondo, but as you're saying it, you can tie two to two and be, oh, okay, that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's easy to tell what it is. What I hear is your iuwa. Some people use iuwa, right? All the same thing. All right, I really meant ufondo. Okay, cool. Let me see if I missed any questions, but if you're coming from Patreon, I tried to post this on Patreon like 6 times. Even with the group study link yesterday, I tried to post it, but it just wouldn't post. So I think there's something going on with Patreon and links. So I apologize about that, but I'm sure they'll resolve it soon, and I will do what I can to resolve it on my end. Harvest celebration, familiar with Ufondo, the Vikings, tugging one out, passion projects. I don't think I missed any questions. Y'all, if we're out of questions, we're out. Are we out of, or maybe there's a jam. Hit the little heart thing. Let me see if you guys are still here. I don't know if I'm frozen or what. Hit the little heart thing. Let me see if you guys are still here. I don't know if I'm frozen or what. Okay, I saw one little heart go up. So. Okay. If you guys don't have any questions, we're out. Also, just topics too. If you have any random topics you want to talk about, I'm here. Like I said, I'm trying to pack an apartment right now. My wife thinks everything needs to stay with us, so everything's got to go in a box. I would have threw everything away, but so be it. This is video evidence that I'm not throwing things away as well because she suspects I'm going to be throwing things away. It's a long story. And I will be driving a U-Haul across the country. That's going to be really brutal. And yeah, and those of you, if we've had any meetings or anything like that, and I've been late or anything, I appreciate you for being patient and understanding. There's a lot going on my end right now. So, hold on. There better be questions when I come back, or else I'm going to flip out. There better be questions when I come back, or else I'm going to flip out. Go here. Trash. That's important. There better be questions when I come back, or else I'm going to flip out. There better be. All right, I'm back. Cool. All right, there we go. Yeah, Jermaine, I don't know too much about cybernetics. All right, I really meant ufondo. I see some hearts. That's what's up. Jermaine, say more about the different layers of our aura. Tells us in relation to our environment. Okay, so very good question. All right. So I was originally taught that there are 7 to 8 layers of moi, which is spirit. You can call it aura. Let me say this. It is spirit, and one of those layers is your aura, or 2 of those layers are your aura, right? So everybody has their physical form and their non-physical form. Their physical form takes the nature of earth, right? Allah, which is of earth. Solid, compartmentalized, and so forth. And then the non-physical form takes the nature of light, which is auraic and so forth, because we are made up of 2 beings, Chinaeke, and Chineke also manifest as earth and sky, right? So think of it that way. Your moi is your sky, if that makes sense, is your atmosphere, okay? Think of the atmosphere and how the atmosphere has different layers that have slightly different natures from each other. The same way our moi does. So layer number 1, right, is what we refer to as, you can call it your aura, right? It's a light that pushes out from you, that radiates out from you. That light carries your essence outwards, but it's not conscious. That's important to remember. It's not conscious. So oftentimes the way I describe it is like if you're mad and you walk into a room and then like everybody's happy, and then your madness, your anger kind of makes everybody a little bit more angry. Or when you walk into somebody's car and you kind of feel their presence a little bit, or maybe you're sitting there and you feel somebody staring at you, or that they're thinking about you, you kind of just feel it like on your back and that kind of thing. All of that is at that first layer. It's whatever you are and what you're doing, just projecting out without conscious. So it's just it's the same way like when you turn a stove on, you can feel its heat, right? Or the rays of the sun, you can feel the nature of the sun because of what it's projecting outwards. That's layer number one. Layer number two is the exact same thing going back inside, right? So as one form of light projects outwards, another form of light projects back inwards, right? And we refer to that as a shadow, okay? So that second form, whatever you're putting out into the world, you're also putting back into yourself. You understand, right? This is why a lot of DBS, for example, there are certain things that they themselves won't do, like, oh, I won't do that, so on and so forth, because it's, let's say it's to hurt somebody, it's also going to, they know as a fact it's going to hurt them too, okay? Hurt, it's going to come back and hurt. Whatever they're putting out in the world is going to come back to them too, okay? So that same way that your essence is radiating out from you, it's also radiating back into you, okay? Which again, if you're aware of that dynamic, you move through the world a little bit differently, right? Layer number three is your ipachi. It's known as your ipachi, right? And this is the life cultivation space. The life cultivation space is because you have that third layer that you are able to, how do I put it this way? It's because you have that third layer that you're able to procreate, for example, right? That life cultivation space has the more of everybody who will descend from you and everybody who will descend from them. It also carries this thing referred to as your ikenga, right? Your ikenga is your kinetic power in the world. It's your ability to move and do, right? It's your ability to do, your ikenga. And then it also carries your omomo or your oda omo, right? Which is your ability to create, right? Your procreative energy. Your procreative energy. The Ikenga is a masculine energy. The Omo is the feminine energy of the entire universe. Okay? So the Omo allows things to be birthed, primarily human beings, but also ideas, concepts, the things that are more abstract and so forth, right? Your Omo is your capacity to manifest as well, right? Your Ikenga is your capacity to do. Your capacity to do. Think about your Omo like things come to you, and then your Ikenga like you go towards things. It allows you to go towards things and so forth. When you're in a flow state, when you enter a flow state and you're doing something and you're like really up, you're charged. That is your Ikenga. That is your Ikenga being active. Okay. When you're into that flow state, when you enter a space and let's say like you're hanging out with creative people, right? You're hanging out with creative people. And then all of a sudden you get a little more creative, which is natural. What happens, right? That is a function of your omo, right? Because that creativity from them is coming to you. It's coming into you, and then you're birthing it back out of something else. And that kind of thing. So there's the omo also allows you to sync with the different omomo in the world, right? Connect with all the different things in the world and exchange gifts on a spiritual level. That is your space number three, right? That is your space number three. That space number three is life. That's where life is coming from. That's the alive space. And then there's the fourth space in your moi, in your aura, right? There's the fourth space. Your fourth space is like how do I refer to it? It's your earth consciousness. Okay. So in Odinala, consciousness doesn't just exist in the human brain. You understand? You receive consciousness from two directions, referred to as ako na uche. Ako comes from the world, from earth, from life, right? Uche comes from beyond, right? Or if we go back to Chineke, ako comes from eke, creation. Uche comes from chi, which is beyond the creator, right? That kind of thing. Even though the earth is the physical is the creator too, but bear with me, right? So that fourth space is like a nest that Ako comes and sits in. Ako comes and sits in. Ako can be translated as intellect. Ako is the reason you have intellect is the reason you're able to decipher the world around you. It's the reason you're able to receive knowledge from the world around you and give knowledge to the world around you. It is your living knowledge space, your terrestrial knowledge space. Okay. Ako, space number 4. Now, the space number 4 completes a layer of being, your first kind of layer of being. And what ends up happening is the next 4 repeat that first 4. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but the next 4 will repeat that first 4, but in a different way. And what I've come to realize is that it continues on and on and on until you get into the realization that you and the universe are the same thing. You're just like, maybe like, I don't know, you're like a neuron, a brain neuron in the entire universal body, right? But I don't want to go into every single layer. So if you guys want like a breakdown, I have a video called 7 Layers of More. I also have an Igbo numerology video, and it relates very closely to this. Igbo numerology, type in medicine shell numerology. And yeah, those 2 videos do a pretty good job. I do want to do a second one because the numerology one is a bit of a to be continued. But a lot of people didn't watch the first one, so I just said, you know what, maybe they're not that interested. So if you're interested, go watch it so I can know. Those are different layers, Jermaine. Thanks for asking. What role do you think our spirituality needs to play in regards to our liberation of African people? You've got me into a really interesting topic, right? Because as of late, I have realized that the quality of conversation about Africa is it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's outdated. It's not based on reality. It's pretty ridiculous, right? And so I've been realizing that the movie Black Panther has caused a lot has caused a lot of damage in the capacity to understand and discuss the African continent. And so when you say the liberation of Africa, can you give me more details as to what you mean, right? Can you give me more details as to liberating from what? Maybe in the 1960s, liberated from colonialism, cool, but we're liberated from, we're past that now. We're liberated from colonialism, right? So what do you mean? Or maybe you don't agree, right? Let's have a discussion. But we're liberated from colonialism. If that's what if you're talking about like these Abrahamic ass religions, I mean, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. But we'll see. They are retreating though in Africa, right? So people are returning to their ancestral ways and things like that. So they're kind of falling back. They're retreating. Well, let me say this. They are going to go somewhere because they usually don't last when they arrive places. No Abraham, anytime, I'll leave Islam out because like they use force to keep theirs going. But Christianity typically doesn't last 600 years anywhere it goes. It'll go somewhere and then 600 years later it starts fading away. So that's a phase. It'll go away. It'll have a tremendous influence in that kind of thing, but it's gone. But when you mean liberal, what do you mean? Because I think we're stepping into that Black Panther territory. We're stepping into that Black Panther territory of understanding Africa. And I'm beginning to realize that part of what I need to do is start helping people get past that idea of Africa, right? But I don't think Africa needs any more liberation than anywhere else. Arguably, it's probably the most liberated place in the world, right? But we can have that discussion. But what role do I think, if we're talking about like spiritually liberated, sure. You know, I don't, sure. That's a big question, man. Give me some more details as to what you mean, like what you're referring to, and we can talk, right? But if it's like political and all that stuff, then yeah, that's just cap. Because it feels like we can't connect as much because of our current state of affairs. People are hungry. I don't know. Are they? Are they? You know? I can't speak for the whole of Africa, but yeah, I don't know. We use words like hungry and suffering like they're casual, and they're not, right? They're not casual. We have to understand this too, right? Even though this is our ancestral knowledge, not everybody in the past was like super high adept, that kind of thing. There are certain people that will be born in every generation that just have it, right? And then the other people won't. And I think it's always been that way. It has always been that way, right? And those who don't have it, as of the past few years, have been trying to use things like the military and the police and all these different to suppress the other people. But the tide is turning now. So if that's the liberation we're talking about, yes, that's real. That's a real thing, right? The tide is turning, right? The people are now becoming not only aware but pushing back against what they're facing. Now, as we're pushing back, that other side is increasing its force. We have a traditional medicine class, and our teacher was actually attacked by the police. Somebody sent the police to attack him because of what he was doing, because of his work. A lot of back at home, a lot of traditional practitioners have a hard time getting apartments, because if you get an apartment and they see you praying your traditional way, they'll try to evict you, right? So things like that, yeah, those social things like that, yeah, absolutely. State power, being able to use state power against us, because the churches fund the politicians, and then the politicians therefore work for the churches, or to an extent work for the churches. Or beholden to them. And if you offend the church, you're not going to win the election, right? If you offend the church, you've lost the female vote, right? Just period. And so you're not going to win any election. So those things, yeah, those are things that we should face. But we're going to win. We're going to win. But if you have more details of what you mean, okay, so capitalism and our spirituality are very opposite, but we have to engage to survive. Yeah. 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 There are alternative. Okay, so one of the ways we can use our ancestral knowledge to deal with something like capitalism is to look at our ancestral ideas and concepts of economics and see how they can still serve us and benefit us till this day. I think the big issue, right, when we talk about liberation, right, okay, one of the things that is pretty easy for me to liberate myself or to see is to stop viewing Western ideas as universal ideas, okay? Is to stop viewing Western ideas as universal ideas. When they're putting these ideas to paper, they are not thinking about your black ass. Okay? It's got nothing to do. You are not in the conversation. Anything that is specific to you will not be regarded, because we're not talking to you. We're not talking to you. And they have every right to be that way. They're talking about themselves and their world. Okay? Themselves and their world. And their world and them, it's not universal. It is not universal, okay? So if we're looking at our ancestral ways of being, ways of thinking, or spirituality, all that stuff, and we're looking for how we're going to, we're looking for how we're going to correct things like capitalism and move beyond things like capitalism. We have to look at, okay, how did our ancestors organize themselves economically? And how can I implement this in the modern day, in my own life, in my own family, in my own town, in my own organization? Okay? I will tell you this, and every African culture is going to have certain things that they do really well and that they have to offer to that conversation, right? And I think that now that we're in the information age and we're all super connected, we're in a great position to combine the concepts that'll take us to where we want to be, regardless of nationality and, oh, this is this culture and this is that culture and that whatever. What works, what works, okay? So the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because in my own Igbo culture, I don't believe there is a group of people on planet Earth that have done the previously impossible concept of wealth distribution better than Igbo people. It has never happened, right? And why do I say this? I say this because in Igbo land, there's not one family in existence that is not a landowner. Everybody owns land. Everybody owns a significant amount of land, and Igbo land is fairly small for the population, right? So it's about 40 million people, and I think the whole Igbo land maybe is the size of like Houston, Texas, maybe 2 Houston, Texases, right? Maybe, I could be wrong. But but everybody there has land. And there's a situation where no town or city is more, like no town needs another town to survive. No side of town, there's no good part of town, no bad part of town. This isn't the traditional. Now, a lot of modern cities have emerged, and that's thrown off the equilibrium a little bit. But even in that emergence, the equilibrium is still there. And I'll give you the example, right? So here's an economic concept that helped allow that to happen. This is the Eke Orie Afo Nkwo market. Now, before I explain the Eke Orie Afo Nkwo market, I'm going to give you a story about the origin of this market, okay? I'm going to give you a story about the origins of this market. The origin of the Eke Orie Afo Nkwo market was from a woman, right? In the time known as Ogachi, when human beings were trying to figure out how to survive in this world, and we were new to this world, we were like toddlers or infants into this world. People did not know how to feed themselves. They would grow things, but they would immediately eat everything that they have grown, and they would spend the rest of the year hungry until they grew more stuff, right? But there was one woman who was so hardworking and so capable, and her hand was gifted with the ability to grow in abundance, that when everybody was done eating their food, she would come out and she would eat hers, and then she would leave whatever it is that she had extra available for the entire town to eat. And people would gather, and she would feed them and feed them and feed them and feed them. People would gather from far and wide and far and wide and far and wide. And she kept growing and feeding and growing and feeding, because even if she wanted to be selfish, she had so much that she couldn't keep it to herself, right? She kept doing it and doing it and doing it. The next thing that happened was that the other women in town saw how celebrated she was. And they admired what she was doing. They admired the role she played in feeding the people. So they began to grow more than they can eat. And when they would have abundance, they would join her. They would lay their blanket down and they would join her in distributing food to the people. And they would distribute, and people would come. The more women get involved, more people would come, and far and wide, far and wide. Finally, the men realized that what these women were doing was the greatest gift of all. That what these women were doing was keeping generations alive. And so they decided to build sheds for the women so that they didn't have to leave once the sun got too brutal or once the rain got too rainy, once the elements came, right? They didn't have to leave, right? So they built sheds for these women. And this created a place where not only were the women giving food to the people who did not have their own food, but they were also gossiping and telling stories and telling jokes and dancing, and a whole culture was emerging from this thing that started out as just, let's call it a charity or sharing, right? This whole culture was emerging, and the culture pleased Allah. Allah is the earth. It pleased her so much that she told the women that if they come out on every Nkwo day, right? Our ancestors have a 4-day calendar. Eke Urie Afo Nkwo. Okay? Nkwo is the last day of the week. If they come out on every Nkwo day and do this, that she will bless them for time beyond time. She will bless them forever. And so that was the beginning of the Eke Urie Afo Nkwo market. So what is the Eke Uriafo and Kwa market, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the most important part. Okay, because the people wanted the women to continue the act of giving, they started finding what they had in abundance and giving it to the women, right? So if I'm giving you all of my food because I have all this surplus food, okay, well, I don't want her to leave and have to go find how to get some, I don't know, some clothes. So I have some extra clothes. I'm going to give them my extra clothes. I'll go get some food from them. Oh, okay, I have tools. I'm very good at making tools. So I can make them tools or I can make them sheds and things like that. So everybody was giving to the women whatever they could to keep this thing going, right? And so this story is the foundation of our ancestral view of economics. From this story, you then understand what the Eke Urie Afo Nkwo market is. I'll be right back. I throw some away. Okay, so what's the Eke Urie Afo Nkwo market? That means that every 4 towns in Igbo land, every 4 towns, each of them is going to have a market, either called, one's going to be called Eke, one will be called Urie, one will be called Afo, one will be called Nkwo. On Eke Day, whichever town has the Eke market is the only town that's allowed to have its market open. So people will gather from far and wide to come to their market to buy, right? Everybody will come to the Eke market. Orie Day, Eke market shuts down, and we're all going to the Orie market. So and then I'll fall, then Nkwa, and that kind of thing, right? And it cycles. What this does is on a community level, it creates a system where no one town is the rich side of town. No one town is the main economic, no one part of town is the economic. There's no such thing as, oh, this is Manhattan, this is the Bronx. And everything that implies is kind of caked on in there. This is the suburbs, this is the whatever. That doesn't happen, right? Because every community has its opportunity to be the primary economic engine of the town, you have this situation in Igbo land that I think is unprecedented anywhere in the world, where you have probably thousands, but let's say hundreds of communities that are all at an equal level of development. Hundreds of just, in fact, I told you about like the population of Igbo people is like between 45 to 50 million people, right? Or Igbo in Igbo land, right? And Igbo land, the land itself is probably, honestly, I'm an American, I'm going to use American analogies, maybe 2 Houstons, right? Maybe 3, I don't know, but it's not huge, right? Relative to the population. It's very, in fact, when the Europeans came, they said the 2 most densely populated parts of Africa were Igbo land and the Nile Valley, and Nile Egypt. Nile Egypt is, you know why that is. It is what it is, right? Those are the 2 most densely populated parts of Africa. They said there was more commerce happening on one river in Igbo land than the entire North Sea in Europe, right? And so what it creates is, it's almost, if you're driving through Igbo land, it's like you never know where one town starts and one town ends, because it's slowly becoming one giant town, whatever, because they're all interconnected with these markets. So let me go back to the market, and they're all at this relatively equal level of development, right? And it's not relatively equal, they're all poor. No. Compared to the rest of Nigeria, they're doing great, right? But they're all at this relative equal. No one is, but like in the modern day, we now have like capital cities, and that's kind of thrown that system off. But even at that, all the capital cities are equal to each other, right? We'll use an example like Lagos, right, or like Yoruba land, right? 80% of the economy of Yoruba land is in Lagos, right? The rest of it is just residential. Let's call it, right? But in the East, it's more equally divided, so that there's no place that's as big as Lagos, but there's no place that's as bad as the rest of it, right? You're not going to find like slumming and things like that, right? And so that system is part of that. And what that does is it creates a type of economic, I don't want to say like just like there's a leveling of everything economically, right? But nobody's held back. Nobody says, oh, you can't do this, you'll get too rich or whatever. The system's just built that way. Now the market itself has another unique way of functioning. The women in the market are free to sell things for as low as they want. For as low as they want. The reason is because they have a system within the market known as isusu. There's a system in the market known as isusu. Isusu is that all the women in the market will pool their money together, and one person will receive that money. And then the next time it rotates and it rotates and it rotates, or they'll pay dues, and one person will get those dues. Some of the dues get kept in the organization. It's used for building projects. It's used for healthcare. It's used for all these different things, right? But they look out for each other. They use it to look out for each other and that kind of thing. And what this does is, even though I'm selling tomatoes, my income is not dependent on the success of selling tomatoes. I already have money coming. So if you come to me and go, I don't have any money right now, but I'll pay you back in a week, I can say, all right, take as many as you want. And I can wait for you to return with my money. Because my life or death is not dependent on the success of these tomatoes. You know? Now, unfortunately, specifically market women have been heavily co-opted by the church. So a lot of these concepts are threatened. So when we talk about liberation, that's the kind of liberation I'm talking about, right? I'm not interested in people talking about colonization all the goddamn time, right? I'm past that. Nobody's colonized, right? But the internal remnants and results of colonization, absolutely. Especially when they threaten these systems that work better than what the colonials had to offer. And so you have the situation, right? Economically, this is what it is, right? And I can go to, so these are different models of economic organization, right? The use of isusu, the use of the eke oria afo rotational market, right? The use of the apprenticeship system, right? So let's say I become successful at something. I now go back to my town and I pick up a young person. If I'm a man, I'll pick up a young boy. If I'm a woman, I'll pick up a young lady. And they will work for me for usually 4 to 7 years, sometimes longer. And while they're working for me, they're not getting paid. They're not getting paid. And they're running any random errand I can think of. They're just, it's brutal, it's rough, right? But at the end of their period, I will give them enough money for them to start their own practice of whatever it is that I do, right? So if I, like a lot of people sell like car parts. If I sell car parts, if I import car parts and I sell them, I'm gonna have my shop. Let's say I become successful enough to open 2 shops. I'll go back to the town. I'll grab one of my relatives, a young person. Usually a young person, not even usually, just period. Either I want to help out their family for one reason or another, which that usually doesn't end well. Or this kid has a reputation for doing chores without causing issues, right? This is a well-behaved kid. So I'll get this responsible kid. They'll live with me for X amount of time, and they'll do the work. They'll run the entire business, right? They'll run the entire business. I'll go do whatever. The entire business is being run by this person. At the end of that period, I will give them enough money to open the business. And because they've been running my business for years, my customers, a huge chunk of them are going to go to that person. So they already have customers on deck. They already have a practice. They have the knowledge. They understand the supply chain, how to get things, how to move things, and that kind of thing, right? This system, according to Harvard University, has created more multimillionaires than whatever the hell we're doing here in the West, right? And so these are different alternatives to the bullshit we're doing here, the whatever it is we're doing here in the West. These are alternatives that we can consider, right? So if that's the very long answer to that question you gave me. I think everybody's ran away by now. All right. Kenya is not liberated. African Francophone countries still pay French to use the DWF. Kenya is liberated. Kenya is liberated. We have to start asking ourselves, what does liberated mean? Kenya is liberated. If you're talking about all the stuff that Kenya does with the United States and Kenya are close allies. That's just what it is. The United States and Kenya are close allies. The United States has things that Kenya doesn't have. Kenya has things that the United States either doesn't have or doesn't want to apply, and so Kenya fills that role for them. But they are close allies. It's not a matter of control. These two countries are just allies. Now, whether you agree with or disagree with what's going on and this and this and that, that's a whole different thing. But the US and Kenya are close allies. We have to start using conventional geopolitical terms to describe the situation in Africa, because we're creating a bit of a mess when we use everything as either somebody's a slave and somebody's a master. Kenya and the United States are allies to each other. They're allies. There are countries in Africa that are not allies of the United States. There are countries in Africa that are allies in the United States. It's just like any other continent, okay? Now, there's a level of control that the US exerts over the entire planet and the entire world, period. There's a level of control that multinationals hold over the entire planet, period, including Western countries, right? Including Western countries. So some people will be like, so such and such company, let's do Shell. Shell has a lot of influence in Nigeria, absolutely. Shell buys the politicians in Nigeria, absolutely. Shell buys the politicians in America. Shell has a lot of control in America. So when we start using when we start looking at it that way, we now start saying, oh, okay, the actual issue is the multinational system, and the type of governments that we run are the type of governments that are built to be bribed by the rich, period. Democracies are built to be bribed. This concept of democracy we're doing is built to be bribed by the rich. That's the structure of it. It was first started in the Netherlands at the same time that the stock market and the corporation were started. And they said, let's have a type of government where it's not based on, a king or whatever. Let's have this government where, like, you pool up a bunch of money and run a campaign. And so anytime you need a campaign, you need to come to me, guy with the money, to become a leader. So I'm permanently in charge, right? And things are based off of written law, like a constitution and so forth, rather than the whims of a dictator, right? So that's the system we run. It is designed to be bribed, okay? So when we see bribery happening in Kenya, we see bribery happening in Nigeria and Togo, we have to just call it what it is. I don't know why you'll say an African country, the next word somebody will say is corruption. And you ask them, okay, what is the corruption? And they'll say that, that people can bribe the government. And then you got Elon Musk running up and down the White House, and that's just politics. That's just, he's a supporter. He's a Trump supporter, right? Right? Why is he running up and down the White House? Oh, because he paid for his campaign. Oh, okay. It seems that this is a natural part of this particular system. I do think there's a strong effort to make sure that we cannot speak about non-US allied governments as legitimate, right? So you'll notice which countries are described as governments and which type are described as regimes, things like that. That's a whole different conversation, right? And then the Francophone countries, right? The Francophone countries are probably the most dependent on a European country of all the countries in Africa. But at the same time, that European country is also extremely dependent on the Francophone countries. And anytime the Francophone countries don't cooperate, that European country tends to collapse, right? But they believe they have some kind of mutual relationship, and you have to ask them why they think it's mutual. I don't agree, but it's their country. They can do what they want with it. They believe they have some kind of mutual relationship where they benefit each other. And every now and then, it fails to be mutual. And when the Africans put their foot down, that country collapses. So that's a whole different case, right? And it's also not the norm. It is also not the norm. Everybody in Africa thinks that shit's bizarre, including the people in those Francophone countries. Including those people in those Francophone countries. But what it is in their heads is they get certain protections and yada, yada, yada from France. And then France gets like favored nation status. So when it comes to investors, they look at the French first. all this different shit, right? In their head, they think it's good, right? It's the exact same relationship that Japan has with the United States. It is the exact same relationship that Japan. Do you know what I noticed? Every single thing, like international cultural thing, like things we get from different countries and stuff like that, like, okay, let's use like cars. Every single country that can sell their cars in America is laced from head to toe in US bases. Every single country that can sell their cars in America is laced from head to toe in US bases, right? The level of control the United States has over Korea, no European country, including the United States, has that level of control over any country in Africa. But when we talk about Africa, we always go into this colonial thing. That's the word that we see come up. And I don't blame people. Maybe they haven't been given the, rhetorical equipment to talk about something else, right? Or to actually describe what's going on the ground. You understand? When I talk about the issues in Africa, I'll tell you exactly where it came from, what it is, what influenced that. And it's a lot more complicated than the West came and did all the bad stuff and we're actually the good people and we did all the good stuff. And I don't think that conversation is getting us anywhere, right? Or that style of talking is getting us anywhere, right? And so this constant conflating of Africa with colonialism, I'm beginning to wonder what that's all about. You understand? Because yeah, there was colonialism. Like, for example, Nigeria was colonized for 60 years, okay? India was colonized for 300 to 200 something years. But we don't even mention colonialism when we talk about India in any regard, right? We don't talk about India colonialism. The United States was colonized for 600 years. 600. So why is it that when I talk about the 60 place, that's the conversation is always about colonialism, right? I think it's from Black Panther. I think the movie Black Panther kind of tilted the conversation in a certain way. And I don't think that tilt is serving us, right? Because for example, I'll give you an example of why I started talking about this. People always talk about like the situation in Congo and Rwanda. They're always talking about how the West is backing Rwanda. It's the Western back to Rwanda, the Western back. And I personally know that Rwanda's actions in Congo have absolutely nothing to do with Western backing. Whether the West existed or didn't exist, if the political and economic situations were the same, Rwanda would do what it's been doing, right? Because the story goes from beyond when colonialism happened. It predates colonialism, the issue going on in Congo, between Congo and Rwanda. But people just colonial. And I'm like, you know what? If we keep talking about these goddamn white people, we're not actually going to figure out how to solve this problem. Though luckily, the people talking are not the ones solving the problem, right? We're not actually going to be able to address the problem. And then, so when Kagame did his traditional invasion of Congo, which he's done like 3-4 times now, or the Rwanda's done 3-4 times now, and all the Western countries sanctioned Kagame, nobody had the tools to explain what just happened. Because I thought he was working for y'all. Oh, he's not. Okay, but you buy the thing. Okay, so who doesn't buy it? It's for sale. The two sides are fighting for who gets to sell this thing to other people, right? And even Sudan, right? The situation in Sudan, maybe I can explain if you guys are interested. I feel like I'm yapping and people have ran away, which is fine. But the situation in Sudan, when we talk about, you keep to bring up, the UAE is the UAE. It's not the UAE. This thing predates the UAE. The thing that's going on predates the UAE. It predates all these things. It's ancient. The issue in Sudan that's going on, right? It's ancient. It goes back to the Arab slave trade, okay? And when you talk about the UAE, face the actual issue. So I think that there's an over-focus and over-association with Africa and colonialism, right? So anyway, let me get back to interesting stuff, right? You guys get me on these geopolitical rants and then start running away when I start them. Hold on. All right, let's see what's going on. Okay, Kenya is not liberated. We can remove that problem, same rights as the tribe, so yes, we will win. He said, yes, our mind. Yes, it's right now, if we're talking about liberation, it's, to me, a lot of it is if liberation's even the word, it's not. It's focus. It's focusing our mind on the right thing. Let's say focus. I prefer focus. You know, I prefer focus because, you know, freedom, right? Some people want to be free to be dumb, you know, right? Freedom, you know, people will take their freedom and go do some bullshit, right? So the actual issue in Africa, in which I don't like talking about Africa as the problem with the I don't like that, right? But if we want to talk about an issue with Africa, right, it's what's being done with the freedom. It's not necessarily a lack of freedom. It's what's being done with the freedom. And if we want something else done, we put our focus onto something else, right? And there's nothing the West can do. There is nothing the West can do, right? There's nothing. Why is it that in everywhere on earth, we are talking about how the West is declining, how the West has no influence, how the West is losing influence, but then we can't have that same conversation about Africa. And that's the reality in Africa. They can't really do anything unless somebody cooperates with them, right? Unless somebody wants them to do it. So it's no different. It's no different, right? These people don't have the power you guys think they do. But the way we talk about it, it gives them power. Trust me. Our cars don't fit on their roads. The whole world fits in Texas. Yes, the whole world fits. You're correct. The market days are key to economics, right? Some type of to me, I don't think everybody has to use the market days, but I think that having some type of controlled distribution system, controlled prioritization system really helps. Here's the thing. It shows you that wealth is not supposed to hemorrhage in one place. That if wealth is hemorrhaging in one place, this is actually a problem. It's not a sign of growth or development or whatever you call it. The Western system is based on feudalism. It's based on feudalism, okay? Feudalism. The systems in Africa, unless they are influenced by Islam, unless they're influenced by Caucasians, let me just put it that way. The Caucasians, Arabs, people from Horn of Africa, things like that. They're not based on feudalism, right? But once you get feudalism says that if the king's house, right, a part of feudalism is if the king lives in a big castle, we're doing well. If the king lives in a big castle, we're doing well. If the stock market is up, we're doing well. Does what the king eat reach the average person? No. Does the average person live in a castle? No. Right? Is this life for everybody? No. Is this helping everybody? No. But the king has a big castle, so we're doing well. It's a fundamental part of feudalism. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me, but it makes sense to a lot of people, right? And so, an alternative to that concept, that feudal way of thinking, is our success is measured by how well wealth flows through a family, flows through a community, flows through a world, and that kind of thing, right? So, will Igbo language class sign up open for the fall? Yeah, so Igbo language class was actually supposed to start this week, but just due to everything that's going on with me moving and stuff, I actually postponed it for the 16th of October. 16th. So yes, we're starting. If you go to the website, it's going to say this week. I still need to change that, but go ahead and register now. If you're a patron, if you join the highest level, then it's free. If you need some time, send me a message, email, Instagram. I barely check Instagram, but just do it anyway. Instagram, maybe if you're on Twitter. Just message me wherever you can and let me know you need some time, and I will set up something with you to give you some time, okay? But yes, we're starting in October, and we're almost full. I think we have 4 more seats left. So we have 4 more seats left. If you're interested, this would be the time to get in there. Guys, looks like we're all out of questions. I think my ranting about politics scared people off, so which is fine. This is not really a politics platform. but I'm just starting to see some things, you know. I need to have a conversation with a person, right? I can't just have all these random thoughts flowing out of my head. You know, I want to hear the pushback. Oh, I don't agree, I agree, that kind of thing. But I do think the way we discuss Africa is nuts. It's crazy. What I've noticed about everything African is everything that moves a certain rhythm, universe rhythm. Yes, politics. Yes. The nature and the universe has already given you the blueprint, right? And nature, the universe, the earth, it's alive, it's a living thing. And so if I ingest something that doesn't go with the blueprint of whatever is already happening within me, I will vomit it out or my immune system will try to destroy it. Okay? On a cosmic level, this is referred to as ogun. Ogun. When something is out of alignment with the flow of creation, creation will try to destroy it. Okay? So you figure out the flow of creation and you move with it. The Ilu says that a smith who does not know how to build an ogene must watch or should look at the tail of the hawk, right? So the hawk's tail is shaped like this, the ogene is shaped like this, right? Meaning that this design is not your design, so it already exists in nature. If you need it, pull it from nature, the way you'd pull an apple from a tree, right? If you need it, pull it from nature. So nature already shows you how economics works. If you pay attention to your bloodstream, if you pay attention to the riverways of the world, if you pay attention to the circle of life, if you pay attention to the cycle of an individual life, all of that is how economics. That's the real economics. That's in flow with what is real, right? That it's not about hemorrhaging, that this part of town has all the money, or this country has all the money, or this person has all the money, right? It's about the flow. You receive, you make it go. You receive, and that flow is what keeps something alive, that circulation. What tends to happen in like a lot of the Eurasian systems of thinking is they measure the hemorrhaging as the success, right? So because something pooled up here more, it's more successful. But then you'll notice that thing then dies, it goes away once it's over hemorrhaged. It swells up, and it fades out, right? They always do this thing, oh, empires rise and fall. Empires rise and fall. Yeah, but people stay where they are if they keep themselves as people. Once they start playing that imperial game, yeah, they're going to rise and fall. It's a hemorrhaging. You want to create a situation where everything's coming to you and not to other people. Okay, well, enjoy it. You got the average lifespan of 200 years to do this thing, right? Well, then, I really greet you, brother. I greet you too, Josh. Well, guys, it looks like we're running out of questions. Maybe I shouldn't be ranting against Black Panther. Listen, I think Black Panther did a lot of incredible things. As terrestrial and casual as it is, Black Panther opened a lot of people's eyes, right? It opened a lot of people's eyes, and I think we've reached a level of interconnectedness as a diaspora due to Black Panther. I think the only thing about that legacy that I'm beginning to question is how it frames the conversation about the resources in Africa. Everybody's always at the damn resources. Oh, the resources. You got to control the resources. That conversation, right? And a lot of that is just supply chains and the fact that nobody gets rich selling a commodity. Nobody gets rich selling resources. And that if somebody wants to become a wealthy nation, they have to transition from selling to refining and selling. Can you please talk about the ancestral view of war and slaves in African settings? Yeah, that's just going to vary by culture. But war was very normal for our people, very, very normal for our people. And slavery was normal for our people too. It was common, right? I think pre-industrialization, slavery was just common in general. A lot of places made laws against it, including places in Africa, right? Made laws against it. So like there's different villages in Igbo land that there are laws against it, but then there's villages in Igbo land where that was their specialty economically. That's what they did for a living, right? And that institution, I think, caused severe, I mean, I don't even need to explain it, but severe damage to the continent as a whole. What was I talking about? But yeah, slavery was normal, war was normal. I'm trying to think of some kind of interesting things as far as slavery goes. I think that the chattel slavery that they had in the West, in Western Hemisphere specifically, like United States, all these places, I think that was completely unique. I don't think anybody else had that, right? Where the objective is to not regard you as a human being, right? That nobody had that. What else? You asked me specific questions about like slavery and war, and then because those are huge topics, right? Yeah, war, a lot of interesting weapons, things like that. A lot of interesting methodologies as far as war goes. But yeah, all of that's a normal part of life. Charlie, Ndewo, how you doing? How you doing? All right, y'all. I think we're out of questions. I think we're running out of questions, guys. Or I think I scared everybody off with the politics talk. So I'll chill on that. But yeah. So, I think the point I am trying to make too, I think it'll be difficult to make without the proper like setting to have the conversation. But we do need to fix that. We do need to fix that. You know, like I don't like that anytime an African, this is the craziest shit. It was a long time ago, but I realized we had a problem. So there's a picture of a Chinese man with Hausa clothing, right? And people around him are like hailing him, right? Or celebrating him. And the news article says, Chinese man becomes the chief of Kano. I'm pronouncing Kano that way for a reason, of Kano, right? And you just see all these comments on Twitter. They're taking over Africa. They're taking over. They've taken over. People have slave mentality. Slave. You always say there's always a reason to call a black person a goddamn slave. They got slave men. They're slaves. They're slaves. They're slaves. They're slaves. They're slaves. Bro, this man's title. This man got a title. This Chinese man got a title from the Emir of Kano, one of the most powerful monarchs in the world. That the title was emissary, I'll say ambassador for the Chinese community to the Emir of Kano. But because he saw that Chinese skin, all of a sudden these people were slaves. And that people are so ready to do that it's insane. It's crazy, right? And that's the quality of conversation in Africa. So you'll see, like, I saw a picture of Macron and Tinubu. I don't like either of them, right? I'm not supporting them. Macron standing next to Tinubu. Oh man, he's a slave. Macron wants to take the resources. You don't think this man knows what the fuck he's doing? You think a criminal like Tinubu doesn't know what he's doing, bro? You don't calm your ass down. It's always an excuse to call somebody a slave, right? Leave Sudan, right? You know what happened in Sudan? I'll just rant since it's not really that many people in here, right? So, the Arabs in Sudan wanted to eliminate the black people, right? They wanted to get rid of black people. They wanted to get rid of non-Muslims. So if you were black and you converted to Islam, fine. But otherwise, we're going to get rid of you, right? Now, that's a big job to do in Sudan, right? So they started hiring these kind of marauding Arabs that kind of descend from slave raiders, right? We call them Janjaweed, the Janjaweed, all them, right? Things like that. They sent them to Libya, to Gaddafi, to go get trained. Some of them get trained. And then they formed these militias that instead of having their army go fight and get rid of the black people, they would send the militias to go get rid of the black people. This militia was referred to as the RSF, right? I think it's the Republican Support Forces or the Revolutionary Support, but the key word is support. It's supporting the military. And they were taking oil from southern Sudan, where a lot of the black people lived, and they were using it to pay the RSF and pay the RSF to go kill those same people, to take more land and spread Islam and spread Islam and spread Islam and that kind of thing. And then South Sudan, with the help of America, the help of George Clooney, Google it, got their independence. They separated from Sudan. And now that government didn't have any money to pay these jackals and Janjaweeds that it was paying to go kill people. And so you know what that RSF did? They had invested so much money towards the purpose of getting rid of black people in that country that the RSF was now stronger than the actual military. The RSF said, well, why do I get the shit? You're not paying me no more? I got all the guns. Why do I have to listen to you? I'm going to take over the country. I'm going to take over the country. So the RSF starts attacking the original Sudanese Arab people. So you're having this Arab on Arab kind of ding, 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 ding. They're fighting each other, right? And then, I know this story. I have good friends from South Sudan. I have good friends from North Sudan. Growing up, my girlfriend for years was a girl from North Sudan. She's a Nuba though, so like Central Sudan, right? And so I know the story very well. And they start fighting each other, and then every comments or the people just keep talking about how the UAE is giving them weapons. The UAE is giving. It's the UAE. We got to stop the UAE. This is colonialism. They want the resources. Like, no, that's not what's going on. That's not what's going on. This is an ancient agenda to eradicate black people in Sudan. That's what it is. That's what's going on. That's what that is. And the thing they created for that thing has now turned on them. Okay? That's what that is. Stop talking about the fucking UAE. They give it. Somebody's going to buy weapons and somebody's going to sell them. That doesn't mean that you're the one making the thing happen. I can't just give you a gun and be like, all right, go take out Donald Trump. I can't. If you didn't want to do it, you understand. Nobody's giving them, they're getting behind they sell. That's what they do. They want to sell whatever it is they can sell, get the weaponry, get more power, get more stuff to sell. That's the cycle, right? But every conversation, nobody's going to talk about what I just said. Oh, yeah, the UAE, the Chinese. It's almost like the topic of Africa is not maybe interesting enough without the outside world as itself, right? Somebody's made a video and he goes, we seldom use the word politics to describe what's happening in Africa. I was like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. That's so true. Because it is, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about. This is politics. It's just whatever, So, all right, guys. I think I've had setting doom drive migration, ancient people around the world, Africa share the views. Clearly, Egypt is from another age. If someone's father is from another country and their mother is Igbo, can they claim to be from their mother's village? So you're, okay, so I often talk about this, how you're from your father's village, but you're what's referred to as Nwanwa in your mother's village. So you're a member there, but like, it's a member in the sense of like if everybody has to the village has to gather to build something, you don't have to, right? You're exempt. You're like a diplomat, it's hard to describe in Western terms. But you can claim whatever you want. If you're accepted, you're accepted. But ultimately, you gotta pay respects to your dad. Now, if you plan on living in the village and doing all that stuff, you can do that anywhere you want. So you can live in the village and do that stuff. But if you're not living in the village and getting involved in the politics there and the activities and things like that, then I would just gotta give your dad his respects. I don't mind. All right, y'all. I think we have done enough. If you're a woman, you can also just marry an Igbo man and be a part of his town too. So, what's behind the Nigerian Muslim? I'm laughing. Oh man, that's a good ass question. Ray, that's a good question. If I started answering, I'd sound biased. So I'm going to try to not sound biased in my answer. But I will say this. How am I going to put the reason the reason I'm laughing is there's currently a battle between specifically Igbo people and Ghanaians online, and a lot of the stuff I've been seeing has been really funny. Um, all right, you know what it is? I'm trying not to sound like bias, right? I think, God, how could I explain this? How could I explain this? So the Nigeria must go thing is very much the exact same thing as like the FBA Pretendian movement, and in South Africa they have one called Dudula or whatever, right? And how do I explain? God, how do I explain this, right? I think Nigeria occupies a very strange place in a lot of people's minds, right? I think Nigeria and let's say Nigerians occupy a very strange place in people's minds, right? I remember when I was in college, I could have told you this FBA thing was coming. Before I was in college, nobody knew, it was all just Africa. Nobody knew what was what. And I remember around college time, people started asking me, "Are you Igbo or Yoruba?" And I was like, "Uh-oh," because I knew what was next. And so you tell them, and they tell you their opinion of this one and their opinion. And it was fun. It was fun. It was really cool because people were learning and they were connecting. And I am who I am. It was a good time for me, like sharing and teaching and learning from them, that kind of thing, right? But Nigerians travel a lot, and they have a decent population in every country you can imagine, right? Even ones that are in the middle of a war, they're still going there, right? And a lot of them will tell you that once that those questions start popping up, you got about 10 years. You got about 10 years before shit hits the fan. Because before you were kind of invisible, now people are noticing you, right? And then once the noticing gets too intensified, the same cycle starts happening everywhere, right? So it's really hard to explain without context. But Nigeria is huge, right? Especially compared to Ghana, right? I think there's more Igbo people, just my own ethnic group, than there are even humans in Ghana, right? And for some reason, Ghanaians, and this isn't a disrespect thing, but Ghanaians think that their relationship for Nigeria is like tit for tat, right? So 2 years ago, there was this big issue in Ghana that they were saying that all the music, all the radios are just playing Nigerian music. They should stop playing Nigerian music. They should stop playing Nigerian music. And then you saw even like I think Buju Banton and all the Jamaicans were even yeah, now they just keep playing this Afro beats and da 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 da, because maybe in like the mind of some Jamaican people, Nigeria and Jamaica is like tit for tat. Ghana, Nigeria is like tit for tat, right? But the reality is, and I'm just talking about music right now, right? If 10% of the people in each of these places produce music, the amount that will come out of Nigeria will tidal wave over the whole of the Ghana, whatever's going, eclipse everything else just because of the amount of people, right? It will completely eclipse. So when that eclipse, when it first starts, when that wave starts, they'll start asking you, "Are you evil?" Then about 10 years, it hits so hard, and then people start getting frustrated and angry, right? You go to the groceries, they're playing this goddamn Nigerian music. You turn on TV, it's Nigerian movies. You go outside, it's Nigerian people doing this, doing that, and that kind of thing, right? Then they start to say, "Oh, they're doing the crimes," and they're, I beg, right? I beg. You understand? And part of what causes that issue is people don't understand. Like sometimes they don't understand that the size of like that Nigeria is like 20 times bigger than their country. This is every African country. For somebody they don't register that until it's like too late, right? They don't understand that, and so once that wave of stuff from Nigeria starts hitting them, they become more protectionist, and they start saying, "Okay, we need to get ready," that kind of thing, right? And they come with the, "Oh, they're doing this and they're doing all this bad," which is just whatever, dude. That's BS. You understand, right? I can go further into it too, right? A lot of it is women. It's weird, man, but it happens a lot of places in the world, especially with Nigeria, because nobody, no, like if like for example, if you look in your house and everything is made in China, we all know that China is 1/5 of the world's population and did all this, right? But everybody Nigerians encounter seems to think that they're like the same amount as them, right? So it can be like uh, Burundi. I think Burundi's probably got like 10 million people in it, if that, right? They're gonna for I don't know. This is so hard to explain, right? But it's the same thing as like it's just any like nationalist, the immigrants are the problem type of thing, right? The main thing that pissed off the Ghanaians or the last well, first it started with the music, right? They're that everything is Nigerian in Ghana, right? The way they were first complaining. Then the next thing was this Igbo guy says that this Igbo man, sorry, um, became the Eze, which is like the leader, the king, whatever you want to call it, of the Igbo community, and he said that he wants to build like like a town, not a town, but like a project, right? Where it's like it's got like an Igbo museum and all these different things, so that Igbo people, whenever they come to Ghana, they can just gather there, or people in Ghana can come and learn about Igbo culture, right? And the Ghanaians said, "Yo, what?" And they flipped. They got the online Ghanaians. Anytime I see a picture with them, the people on the streets love them, right? So the online Ghanaians got mad that they're trying to take over our country. Who gives them the audacity to do this? Their arrogance and da 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 da, and this and that. Then all of a sudden you hear all of them. I guess in the markets that the Igbo traders are selling things cheaper and woo 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 all this stuff and they can't do this. They can't. Even though in Ghanaian law, every ethnic group has its own like kingdom. Like you have to pick a leader of your group, and then that kind of thing, right? So it's yeah, that kind of thing, right? So stuff like that, I don't. It's stuff like that, right? I don't. I think Nigeria is weird because Nigerians will go anywhere, and usually when you come to somebody's country, they have a certain idea about you, and when you don't match that idea, they will revolt, right? That kind of thing, right? And then of course there's a lot of Nigerians that get involved in like crime and stuff like that too. But that's never the issue. That's never like no criminal has had the pushback that this Igbo king has. The man we refer to as the true king of Ghana. No criminal has gotten the amount of pushback they. So it's not that, right? The South Africans the same thing, right? They'll say, "Oh, it's the Nigerians. They're doing crime," but whenever like the last person they revolted against was a Nigerian girl that won Miss South Africa. She won Miss South Africa. The South Africans flipped. They flipped out, right? Because a common thing in South Africa I've noticed is that they try to insult Nigerian women, that they're not attractive. So a Nigerian girl winning Miss South Africa. Well, she's South African. She was born in South Africa, that kind of thing, but she's Nigerian by ethnicity, I guess. And they flipped out. They doxed the hell out of her. They literally chased her out of the country. So she ran for Miss Nigeria. She wins Miss Nigeria. So this girl is Miss two countries, right? She wins Miss Nigeria, and then she reaches now they're all competing, and she gets second place. So she's Miss Africa. She was the second place for Miss World. She was second place for Miss World. Igbo girl. She wins Miss, so she now becomes Miss Africa, right? And that girl got more heat than any criminal I've ever heard of, right? You understand? Like I said, I think Nigeria occupies a very strange place in people's minds, right? And it's a very small, like people think that like, I don't know, people just, the context they put us in when we first arrive, if they stick to like it doesn't match the reality. And I understand why. It's like, why is your crazy ass going to Togo and all these places that are worse than Nigeria, right? But they do it. So they're thinking, okay, whatever they're coming from must be significantly worse than what we're. Then they start buying stuff, and then they're like, whoa, 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 get these people out of here. Or they start doing well. Now get these people out of here. What the hell is this, right? It's an invasion, right? So I don't know. It's a weird thing. It happens. Nigeria had its own Ghana must go era. where they chased out the Ghanaians in Nigeria. Now the Ghanaians are trying to actually no, the Ghanaians chased out the Nigerians first. The Nigerians retaliated by chasing out the Ghanaians, and they were even. And then now some online, I'll call them online Ghanaians, are starting a Nigeria must go because this Igbo guy said he wanted to start like an Igbo. He wanted to buy land and build like I don't even know what he called it. He wants to just build like a place for people to gather and learn about Igbo culture and that kind of thing, right? You understand? So it's tough, man. I think we're all out of questions, though. The last thing I see is what is behind the Nigeria Must Go movement. That's the last thing I see from Ray. Is that the last question? Hit the heart button so I can know if you guys are still here. Sometimes this thing freezes, and I don't know if anybody's still here. Hit the heart button if you're still here. Oh, shit, my bias answer, right? It's going to sound biased. I think people have a low opinion of black people. And to tell you the truth, when you don't match that low opinion, they get very, very angry. And this includes your fellow black African people, right? They get very angry. So as much as people talk about they want development in Africa, when it actually starts happening, a lot of people, African people, are going to be really, really angry about it. And the Nigeria backlash usually happens when people realize Nigerians are not coming here to be poor. That's when they start flipping the fuck out. When they realize these people are not coming here to be poor, or these people are not going to be poor or unnecessarily subservient, they start flipping the F out. And this happens in Africa a lot. And for some reason, every African country thinks Nigeria is worse than their country. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. It makes no sense what they all believe. Well, part of it, and this is our fault, we go there, they don't come to us. You understand, right? People are starting to immigrate to Nigeria. Like, for example, like a lot of people immigrate to Nigeria, so let me just leave that alone, right? But like if one person from Benin Republic comes to Nigeria, 50 Nigerians go to Benin Republic, right? 50 go to Benin Republic, right? And it's probably an equal exchange. It's probably a 50 times whatever. But if you send one person to me and 50 come here, then whatever. Then all of a sudden, within 5 years, those 50 people start buying a lot of stuff and building this and yada, yada, yada. And there's a general idea in Africa. This is going to sound funny, but this is just the truth. There's a general idea in Africa that African women tend to have is that Nigerian men are going to spend a lot of money on them and all this stuff. They watch all the Nollywood movies. They listen to the rap and that kind of, all the Afro beats and all that stuff, right? And so they tend to do very well in the marketplace of women, right? Now, maybe Ray, I don't know if you're Black American, but the same backlash that Black American men get when they do well in the marketplace of women, be it white women, Hispanic, whatever, that Tiananmen Square protest was literally, I don't know if it was Nigerian, but it was literally started because the Chinese people were flipping out that a Chinese girl was dating an African guy. So they have success with, and this one sounds funny, right? That's why I was laughing, right? But this is actually probably 50% of the issue. 50% of the issue, right? Nigeria gets a lot of good marketing from Nollywood and all the Afro beats and stuff. And so women have this association and they do very well when they go to these countries. In South Africa, they call them Jolofinas. These are girls that date Nigerians. Right? Girls have been beat up, unalived for having Nigerian boyfriends, that kind of thing, right? And so that is usually, but that's an embarrassing thing to start rioting about and protesting about, right? And it's embarrassing. South Africa, they'll openly tell you with their own mouth, yes, this is the issue, we're tired of it, right? But in other places, it's embarrassing to say that this is why I'm mad. Like, what the hell's going on, right? And so they'll usually say, oh, they're doing the crimes, that kind of thing, right? Which That's just not true. That's stupid. You know what I mean? There are some places that Nigerians do go to do crime specifically, though. I'm not gonna lie. Like Southeast Asia, countries in Southeast, yeah, they specifically go there. A lot of them specifically go there to do crime. The criminals go there to do crime, not the normal people, right? A Nigerian criminal's mentality is, why would I be here being a criminal in a third world country when I can go be a criminal in Malaysia, right, and get actual money, right? But that's not the issue. The issue always comes with the sexual marketplace. It sounds as goofy as it sounds is what it is. But if you're maybe Black American, you've probably seen the same thing in America too, right? That's really what it is. And so yeah, that's it's as goofy as it sounds. But there's just this idea that Nigerians are coming to your country to be small, and that if they're not being small, maybe they have like they think that they're better than you, right? Which is not the mentality in Nigeria whatsoever, or of Nigerian people whatsoever. It's not the mentality. So it's a weird way of thinking. People just keep attributing, like I don't know. It's hard to contextualize. You understand, right? A lot of the anti-Nigerian sentiment in America, it came when they posted that statistic about them having all them degrees and shit, and that's when it went from, are you Igbo or Yoruba to, man, F these people. You know what I mean? So yeah, people have a low opinion of Black people, and once they start believing Nigerians don't match that low opinion, they usually react very negatively. But if I was coming to be poor with everybody else or whatever, then they'll be cool. They'll be cool about it. And I say this because even within Nigeria, this is how Nigerians react to Igbo people. Right? This is how Nigerians react to Igbo people. This is why Igbo people want their own Biafra. You know, this is the same. It's the exact same. It's like, so we've seen this a million times. It's just over and over and over. It's the exact same thing, over and over and over. In the Calabar region, I have a document in my in the medicine library in Patreon. The document is about how I think the one of the traditional rulers in the Calabar region gave like some land to Igbo people. No, he's like sold some land to Igbo people, and it was bad land. And the people were laughing because they said that Igbo people farm and they're fishers, and in their culture, fishing was more dignified than farming. So they were seeing these people that were coming to do peasant work and that kind of thing. So they sold them some land. And then they started building like facilities on that land and using the facilities to make money, like refining palm oil and that kind of thing. And they became very wealthy. And they started buying more land. And they went and complained to the British that these people are trying to take over our land, get them out of here. And the British said that, you know, that it's all Nigeria, they can come here and they haven't done anything wrong and blah, 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 blah. And so that was during colonialism, is the same thing. And that happens over and over and over. It's happening in Lagos. They just renamed all the street names that were named after Igbo people. They removed their names from the street signs. The South Africa thing's going on. The internet's getting people very nationalistic. And so we tend to be ground zero of their nationalism. One, because we keep going into people's countries like we don't, like, headlessly, right? That's annoying. And then two, people just have this kind of opinion of what we should be and what Black people are, and if you don't match it, they get mad, right? Same thing in America. Sometimes if you talk a certain way, or if you whatever, people start thinking, oh, this guy thinks he's better than me, or this girl thinks she's looking down on, like, it's just stupid shit. Wake me up when he starts trying to act intelligent. You're your father. Hey, Kofo, ndewo, dizzy. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I do have to show off this live. Damn, was she that bad? I don't know. I mean, people really had to go back. That's like a historical thing. I think, I don't know if she won the South Africa one, but she was about to. And they started doxing her. She had to leave the country. They said that her mom is an illegal immigrant and woo, all this stuff. And so she left and went to Nigeria and won in Nigeria and then got second place worldwide. You know, so yeah, maybe she is that bad. I don't. Oh, shit. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the sister I'm talking about did not win South Africa. Thank you. She was selected as a competitor, and the South Africans complained that she shouldn't She shouldn't have qualified, yes. And I think the reason they were saying it was that her mom was an illegal immigrant or something like that. P, if you can give me some details on that, that'd be good. Sit down, you're making me dizzy. Okay, my bad, my bad, my bad. What are your thoughts on how Tinubu is doing? You know, Tinubu's a criminal. Tinubu's a criminal. My expectations for Tinubu are very low. The man's is a hardened criminal. I think that, but you know, a lot of people go to Lagos and enjoy Lagos now, for you know how well built up and all that stuff, and a lot of that it couldn't be credited to Tinubu when he was the governor. Tinubu used to be the governor of Lagos, and he did a pretty good job helping Lagos modernize. But anything with Tinubu has a caveat. He's going to steal. He's going to steal and be a dictator at an unprecedented clip, right? So even though he built up Lagos very well, he set up a situation that his personal company collects all the taxes for Lagos. I think it's called ABC or something like that. His personal money collects all the tax revenue for Lagos, has the contract to collect it. He controls who is the governor of Lagos from the day he stopped being governor till today. He still controls. He controls who's the governor of probably all the Yoruba states, right? Once Tinubu gets a hold of power, he never lets go, right? And so even though whether he's doing good or not, the issue is what situation are we going to be left with when he's gone? Because that man never leaves, right? He's like a virus. That man never leaves. And on top of never leaving, he will steal and tax you at a clip that you won't be able to fathom as a rational human being. He will steal and tax you at the most brazen, and what kind of precedent is he setting? Because the next person will probably be worse. All right. What kind of precedent is he? You have to be worse to beat him. If you're not willing to be worse than him, you won't beat him, which is the sad thing. So Tinubu's a net negative, and one of the biggest criminals you'd ever fathom on planet Earth. Oh, Amaka Ndewo. I see our people are arriving. You guys are kind of late though. I mean, it's not your fault. I tried to post the link on Patreon about 6 times. It just won't post. Maybe it's up now. But that should be it, guys. I do have to go. I'm trying to dismantle this entire apartment. And you guys have been very patient with me as I spun this phone around very recklessly and ranted about this and ranted about that. But all right, y'all, that should be it. Damn, Phoenix is going hard. What's it? Oh man, Phoenix is here. Phoenix, ndewo. Cool. All right, y'all. So this has been a good conversation as always. Uno gade, uno geto, gobala, uno choro, no wa, ogade. Ogade otwane eke, no rie, na fo na nkwo. He said, all right.